Another boring morning, another boring day. Coffee.
Please tell me there's some more coffee left.
In plenty.
What time is it?
A little after 8.
Thank goodness, I thought I was late. My alarm kinda jammed this morning. It didn't ring.
I sure wish mine did. I could use the extra hours.
I dressed up in like 5 minutes. Record time.
Yeah, okay.
This looks like a singles convention.
Sure does.
So are you single?
Yes, I am.
Really? Not even a girlfriend?
Not even a girlfriend. They say the right woman is right in front of you, but we're all too myopic to see her. I don't know how true that is.
Cyrus, you just need to open your eyes and she'll be right in front of you.
What?
They also say you need to open your eyes.
And you will see her?
Yeah?
Yeah, I need to pick a file from Elsie's desk.
Tell me more about this Jackson fellow.
He's a real estate developer. Sold me a 4-bedroom house in Buruburu. While I was waiting for the completion of transfer, I discovered the title deed was a fake, and Jackson was nowhere to be found.
Did you report to the police?
Yes, I did. But what can they do to get my money back?
Yes, that's usually the case. Do you have any documents?
The fake ones?
Yes.
I have them right here. But of what use will they be to us?
Evidence. I need you to bring me anything and everything that he ever gave you.
I have some more documents at home.
Bring them to me. And I want you to remember everything.
Anything he ever told me.
Katana.
Yes.
You're a retiree, am I right?
Yes.
Your golden handshake from your services at KRA was 1.2 million shillings.
Give or take, yes.
And you wanted to buy a house with that money, a retirement house?
Yes. Where I would spend the rest of my years in peace and quiet. I wanted to continue living in the city. It is very difficult to adjust to the life, village life in old age. You get older faster.
True. Go on.
And I have business here and there. I have a matachu, a kiosk to survive on. If I could have a roof over my head and no rent to pay, 90% of my financial problems would be solved.
So you decided to purchase a house at Dunham on the 11th of January this year?
Oh, yes. But it's all turned out to be a con. It's a crime to steal from old people.
Do you recognize that man?
Yes. He is the one who sold me the house. This one. He claimed that he was the owner. He is or he's supposed to be a real estate developer. He showed me the house, which apparently he had rebuilt.
What do you mean?
He had to rebuild and was reselling it.
What do you mean, rebuild?
The house was in a single compound. And he pulled down some walls and built the servant quarters, guest wing. And I thought this was a good idea, and that's why I was interested in purchasing the house. Because I could rent out the wing and the servant quarters, which would fetch me about 20,000 every month. And every problem I had could have been solved.
You had it all planned out?
Yes, it was perfect.
Your golden handshake was 1.2 million. The cost of the house was 3.5 million. How did you raise the difference?
I had started a saving plan some time back. I was saving about 12,000 shillings every month. I withdrew the difference from my savings. Oh, it was all I had, all the money I put together to buy that house. I even sold my shares so that I can have enough money for that house. Oh, Bwana, it is sad and very, very sad.
How did you meet with the real estate developer?
Well, I saw an ad in the papers. I made some arrangement to meet him. He told me he was the owner and showed me some papers to prove it. I had no reason to doubt it.
So you proceeded to make arrangements to purchase the house after seeing the documents?
Yes, I made copies of every little details, the documents and everything else. Then, nikapeana pesa. Cheki, 3.5 million, milioni 3.5.
Was the check?
Banker's check.
Was the check written to his company or to him?
To him personally. He insisted on it.
Didn't you find that odd?
How would I? He told me the house was in his name, and he provided documents to prove it. Well, I was glad that I was dealing with the owner, not some companies which are, what shall I say, more expensive and bureaucratic. Well, there I was. He conned me. The devil works overnight. Ashidwe.
Did you make copies of the check?
Yes. I made copies of everything.
Very wise of you. Your Honor, here's a file containing copies of the check, indicating that the payee was one Jackson Mogaka. And it also contains a banker's confirmation that the amount was paid out to an account holder bearing the name of the defendant. You'll also find in it copies of the titles, architectural designs, and everything else pertaining to the house. When did you realize there was something wrong with the sale of the house?
When I wanted to move in, Jackson Mogaka disappeared. I called his cell phone. It was Muteja always. I called the office number. It was disconnected. When I visited his office, he had never worked there.
Had you been to his office before?
No. So, I went to my bank to confirm that the banker's check was paid out. The bank confirmed that it was. Well, I chose to be positive. I gave Mogaka about 1 week more. But nothing. Mogaka never showed up. Kwa hivyo, Nikaamua nifanye uchunguzi. I went to the land's office, where nilishanga. I got shocked that the title deed was fake. Fake! The title deed that I was holding in my hand was for a piece of garbage land in Garissa. Fake! I reported the matter to the police, and an investigation was opened. And Mungu ni mwema na halali. Halali? 2 months later, the man was found, and that's why we are here. All I want is my money back. Afungwe, asifungwe, hiyo shida yangu. Shida yangu ni pesa. 3.5 million. Lazima nizipate. I have to have it back. Bas, zote, all of it.
Thank you. No further questions, Your Honor.
The copy of the title deed used to search for the property was provided by Jackson Mugaka, so you say?
I don't say. It was exactly that.
According to you?
Not according to me. He gave me the title of the house that I had bought. The fake, and it was a fake one.
Okay, we get it. You kept all the documents that Mr. Mugaka gave you?
Yes.
You're very meticulous and thorough.
You can never be too careful.
Exactly. Exactly. And so it puzzles me that a meticulous, particularly thorough man such as yourself was not too careful. Not careful enough to confirm the title with the land's office before writing a check. Doesn't that surprise you? I know I am. Why? Why didn't you do a search with the land's office? You had all the copies of the documents with you, yet you never bothered to do anything with them. Why?
It never occurred to me. After all, they looked genuine.
It never occurred to you, yet it occurred to you to make and keep copies.
I trusted him.
When did you find out that the property you had bought was earmarked for destruction?
I never did.
Are you absolutely sure?
Yes. I didn't know that the property was earmarked for destruction.
Until you visited the land's office, am I right?
When I visited the land office, the copies I was given
was a piece of garbage land in Garissa. Yes, you told us so. The question is in relation to the property you bought in Donholm that was earmarked for destruction.
I had no idea that the house was marked for destruction.
For how long did you have the copies that you just submitted to the court as evidence?
The copies in the file?
Yes, the copies of the title deed, ownership details, etc., etc. From the time you made an offer to Mr. Mugaka, am I right?
Yes.
That makes it approximately 4-5 months since you had the fake title deed.
Yes.
5 months. You never bothered to find out whether the property you were buying was real. You were negligent.
Objection, my lord.
Where exactly are you headed with this kind of questioning?
Pius Katana bought a house from my client, Jackson Mugaka, and while waiting for completion of the transfer, he gets a notification that the house was earmarked for demolition. In a bid to save himself, he frames my client for fraud.
No.
Then why exactly can't you explain why you did not verify the title with the land's office?
The witness will answer the question.
It just didn't.
You just didn't.
What can I say? I am an old man.
Old enough to figure out a way out of a bad investment that you made.
Objection.
Withdrawn. Nothing further.
Inspector Kiliwa, you are in charge of investigating the fraud case involving Pius Katana.
Yes. Pius Katana came to the police station to report that he had been conned 3.5 million by Jackson Mogaka. I immediately opened an investigation into the case.
Is it true that the defendant disappeared and you and your team had to look for him to bring him to justice?
Yes.
Go on. Tell us more.
Pius Katana had launched a complaint on May 13th. With the details he gave us, we attempted to get in with the accused. His numbers were not going through, and his supposed business address was false. That immediately raised suspicion.
What do you mean by that?
If he was running a legitimate business, he wouldn't be running and hiding away from the police using false address, now would he?
Go on.
We decided to get support from the telephone networks. We got the numbers frequently dialed, and with that, we were through. I immediately charged him with fraud.
Did your investigations provide any evidence of the crime charge?
Most of the evidence was circumstantial. He disappeared as soon as the check was cleared. As far as the fake title deed is concerned, our investigation led us to a dead end. He must have got help from someone. Some inside help, possibly from the land's office.
No leads whatsoever?
None. I said dead end.
Is he a first offender?
There was no record of any other fraud case against him. Though what we found peculiar was he had 2 IDs on him.
Same picture, different names.
The second ID had the same picture, different name. However, the photo didn't look like him, but the fingerprints couldn't match.
Did he give reasons why he had 2 identity cards on him?
He said he found it. He picked it up on the streets and was trying to figure out what to do next. Can you believe that?
Oh, certainly not. What was your take on that?
I feel he was impersonating. Con men usually have 2 to 3 IDs. But we were unable to link the second ID with any criminal activities.
But you have reason to believe that the second ID was actively in use.
Objection. This is mere speculation.
Withdrawn, Your Honor. Jackson Mogaka is the one that matched his fingerprints?
Yes.
And this is the one. Peterson Onchari is the second ID, but the photo doesn't match the fingerprints.
Yes.
Your Honor, here are the 2 IDs. Look at the second ID. The photo might pass as his own if one doesn't verify. The possession of that by itself brings a lot of questions.
Yeah, it's very similar. Jackson Mogaka, could you please stand up and step to the side? I need to have a look at you better. Mr. Mwako, do you have the identity reports for the 2 IDs? Very well, Jackson Mogaka, you can sit down. Exhibits accepted.
Nothing further, Your Honor.
Fine. Clerk.
Is it uncommon for fellow tribesmen looking alike?
Not at all.
Is it uncommon for a person to pick up a lost ID on the street?
No.
In fact, at the station, you have a lost and found board, or is it a counter where lost IDs and documents are left in the hopeful event that the owners would come to pick them up? Am I right?
That is correct.
What sin did Jackson Mogaka commit by finding a lost ID, which coincidentally belonged to a fellow tribesman that happened to look just like him? What is the crime in that?
On the day he was arrested, he was in possession of 2 IDs.
Yes, we know that. What crime is that? He did tell you that the ID wasn't his, didn't he?
Yes, he did. We have reason to believe that he was impersonating the second ID.
What reason did you have?
A complaint was launched against him.
Which you were investigating. What if there was no complaint and you found him with Peterson Onchari's ID? Would you suspect him of using it for impersonation? I have 2 IDs on me. In fact, I have 3. One is, of course, mine, and the other 2 belong to my clients. They left them in my office sometime in the course of the day. They'll be picking them up from me. Am I a suspicious character? Officer?
No.
And neither should my client. Just because he had a lost ID on him doesn't make him a con man.
In light of the case...
You have no evidence that the second identity was in use, yet you brought it as evidence. You have no evidence to prove that the defendant duped Pius Katana into buying the house. For all we know, Pius Katana could be using my client as a scapegoat for a bad investment that he made. Could you prove beyond reasonable doubt that Mogaka gave Katana the fake title deeds?
No.
Exactly. No evidence, with the exception of one man's word. Investigations brought to no leads, dead end. Yet you chose to charge a man with fraud on circumstantial evidence. Not good work, detective, is it, officer?
Please, can I ask you something?
You already are.
How do you get a guy to notice you?
We're talking about Cyrus.
How did you know?
The way you light up when he walks into a room, it's pretty obvious.
Oh dear. So do you think he's noticed me? Like, do you think he knows I have a crush on him?
Elsie, are you okay?
Unbelievable.
Elsie? Everything all right?
Unbelievable.
Yeah, I'm a man of many talents, man. Yeah. Yeah. Just a moment. What? Let me call you back. What is it?
Is this how you want to play it?
Play? Play what?
Look at the file on your desk!
Yeah.
Aya, vita vimeanza. Joe na Elsie wameshikana mashati. Come, we go watch.
Elsie, I'm sorry of how things have turned out. I had no idea of what you're talking about. And that's the honest truth.
Truth? Truth? You think you have any idea what that means? This isn't over.
Mr. Kirinyaga, you're an officer at the Lands Registry?
Yes, I am. My core job work is to serve wananchi when they want to confirm details of the title deed.
Do you keep records of the people who request for searches?
Yes.
What do you write in your inventory?
The details of the person requesting for the search, and of course, the details of the property.
Are you familiar with this case and the property involved?
Yes.
Good. We'll look first at the title of the land in Garissa. What can you tell us about it?
I can say many people were interested in it. I've had 4 people come into my office requesting for the search of the same property in a span of 2 months.
Do you have their particulars?
Yes, there was Charles Kandenge, Adman Kivilu, Margaret Minanga, and lastly, Pius Katana.
Were you surprised that there were so many searches for the same piece of land?
Yes, I did, and it came to no surprise when this case sprang up. I thought something like this was bound to happen.
Meaning?
Meaning someone was using that title to con people.
Are you familiar with this gentleman?
No.
What about the land and the house in Donholm?
The title for the Donholm property checked out.
Was there a search done in the span of 2 months for this same property?
No.
The title that Pius Katana visited your office with was for the land in Garissa, not Donholm?
Yes.
The same piece of land which had so many searches and raised your suspicion?
Exactly.
Thank you. No further questions, Your Honor.
You testified that you have never seen or met Jackson Mugaka.
Never seen him before.
He's never conducted any search in your office?
Nope.
Is it possible that he obtained the title for the Garissa plot from your office?
Certainly not from me.
Is it possible?
I wouldn't know. I can only speak for myself.
Is it possible he knew his house was earmarked for demolition and passed the problem to someone else?
You'd have to ask him or someone in the city council. That's not my division.
As per your knowledge in the case...
I am here to confirm that the title Pius Katana has or was given is for a property in Garissa, not Donholm. Anything more than that is beyond me.
Thank you.
You may step down.
Thank you.
Jackson Mugaka?
Yes.
You are a real estate developer?
Yes, a small-time one. I buy cheap properties, remodel, redo, and sell at a higher price.
Just as you did with the Donholm house?
Yes, and many others. I bought that one 3 years ago. I didn't exactly remodel it until recently.
Why?
I was waiting for the prices to go up, high enough to fetch me some good profit. I only work on houses that I'm guaranteed to sell as soon as possible. Well, a few months later, the house was ready for sale. I put an ad on paper. Those interested called in, one of them being Pius Katana.
And you eventually sold the house to him?
Yes.
What happened after the sale of the house?
I moved to Mombasa for my next project.
You buy and rebuild houses all over the country?
Anyway, I get a cheap house with the prospect of making profit, I'll be there.
Do you have an office?
Yes, in my house. The kind of business that I do don't need an office space, unnecessary expense. So, one of my rooms in my house serves as an office, and I inform my clients the same. I never met Pius Katana in an office, or even insinuated I had one. I'm surprised. He came calling, saying that he came looking for me in my office where he could not find me. I never indicated anything of the sort.
The copy of the title that Mr. Katana has.
I don't know where he got that from. The house that I sold to him had my name, And the documents that I gave him were for the house that had my name. So I gave him the title as an assurance for him to go and confirm everything before he could give me the check. So if the title was fake, he had an ample time to discover so as not to purchase the property. But as far as I'm concerned, the title deed for Garissa I said I gave him, I don't know, it's a big lie.
How did the police contact you?
They called me on my cell phone.
I thought they were unable to reach you.
Another big lie.
Your phone was no longer in service?
They called me on my cell phone. I told them where I was. They came in quickly and arrested me without telling me my charges. I was surprised what was happening. It was until then Pius Katana came in and accused me of conning him his entire pension and savings. Honestly, I'm a legitimate businessman trying to grow up my reputation. Why could I swindle the old man 3 million? 3 million. Is that the kind of money, is that money worth me going into jail? Is it?
Thank you. Nothing further.
How long have you been in the business of real estate?
A little over a year.
How many houses have you rebuilt and sold?
2.
2. Are you sure?
1.
That's more like it. And the one house that you sold is the house in Donholm, am I correct?
Yes.
And as you said, you bought the house 3 years ago.
Yes.
You bought the house 3 years ago. But you waited for the price of property in Donholm to go up before selling it. Why didn't you sell it this year or the year before?
I was waiting for the price of housing to go up.
How high up?
I don't know.
By 5%, 10%, 15, 20?
I said I don't know.
The truth is, last year would have been the best year for you to sell because the property prices had gone up by 35%.
How did I miss that? Oh yes. Last year I was focused in Mombasa market.
Where you never made a sale. Quite uncharacteristic of a real estate developer, missing out on such an opportunity. One other thing that you should have known is the abrupt plummeting of prices of property in Donholm. Why didn't you know that?
I don't know.
Oh, yes, you do. You are a real property developer, remember?
Seems like lawyers know about properties more than I imagined.
The property plummeted because that house was in a road reserve.
I don't know that.
Oh, yes, you do. So to recoup the loss, you quickly redid the house and sold it to an unsuspecting, innocent man. You gave him the details of the actual house, but prepared a transfer for some piece of land in no man's land in Garissa.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yes, you do. You realize the potential of making some quick money by selling the house due for demolition. And you attempted to sell it to so many others, but lucky for them, they went to confirm in the land's registry before writing the check. Otherwise, you'd have gotten 3.5 million times 4, a whopping 14 million shillings.
Where is the number 4 coming from?
From the number of people who checked the Garissa land using the title, apparently 3.5 million is not worth the risk, but 14 million is. No further question, Your Honor.
This is the ruling in the matter of Pius Katana versus Jackson Mogaka for the fraudulent sale of property. Even though the evidence was not as concrete as I would have wished it to be, I rule in favor of the plaintiff, and I hereby order the reimbursement of the money paid for the house and the costs involved in the purchase of the same. Silence. Now, further to this, I order payment of interest of 3% on the total money utilized in this fraudulent transaction. Now, failure to make good this payment will earn the defendant a jail term of 5 years. That is the judgment of the court, and this court is adjourned.
All right.